So here we have a mega cab dually 1-ton Dodge, and we're pulling the transmission out on this one because of a suspected rear main seal leak. And you can see all the oil running down the oil pan there. So we have to pull this transmission out, and number one thing is look for this cover right here that goes right on your bell housing, and that shows you two holes. One hole is for a tool you stick in that grabs the flywheel, and then you can turn the engine over to get at your torque converter bolts that you can see through this hole. Now it's the same whether it's in a Dodge truck or in a excavator, something like the Greydall road graders. They have the 5.9 Cummins in it. They also have an automatic transmission behind it, so they'll be caked in oil, and it's hard to find that cover, but it is there. This plug on this thing right here is tight up against the block, so just take the two bolts out and pop it off the shaft that connects to your shifter cable. Your shifter cable pops right off of the lever in the transmission, and then squeeze the two tabs together and pop it through the hole right there. Remove your two transmission cooler lines. The front one will probably leak oil, just so you know. Try and catch that, put a plug in there. Remove your dipstick, which just pops in on a rubber and gets mounted to the bell housing at the top. Oil is going to come out of here too if you don't drain it, so you can stick a socket in there. And I say socket because they're all different sizes. You just want something that's snug in there, and the oil level is probably up to about there. Remove your drive shafts. Start by removing your hanger bearing, taking the bolts off the back, and then you can slide it out of your output shaft at the back of the transfer case. Oil might come out of here too, so you might want to drain right here. Take a little bit of oil out, make sure you pop that back in again when you're done. The front drive shaft is really annoying to take off right here, so leave it alone and just remove it from the transfer case itself. Support the transmission. You can do it with wooden blocks if you stay under the side here. This pan is starting to get pretty sketchy, but I'm going to support it in two spots then, underneath the transfer case with my scissor jack, and then transmission jack under the front. So splitting the weight in half should be fine. Then you can take your mount off and remove your torque converter bolts, which look like this. You need to remove 6 of them, and then you can slide your transmission back. With the long transmission, works very slick. Just putting the transmission jack under the front and then the scissor jack under the back works very nice for being able to tilt that transmission. Other than that, she's a wonderful thing. Here we go. As you can see, all the oil that's splashed up all on the inside, and then the seal itself is wet on the bottom, and then you can see the oil kind of running down in a nice little stream here, and then coming out the bottom and also leaking behind this plate on the oil pan. To verify that it's not something stupid like a hose or a valve cover, there's a plate on the other side of this thing here in this inspection cover. This is where you put the tool in to turn over the flywheel, and that is the access hole to get to the torque converter bolts. So I took those off, took it for a drive, and there's actually oil coming out of this hole here, and starter's all wet. You can see the oil ring in there, so it's definitely rear main. So we got to pull the starter off and then pull this plate off, and then behind that is another plate that holds this seal in place. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Here we go. So this truck has had something I've never seen before, where it leaks out of the, this is where the camshaft butts up against, and it doesn't butt up. There's a retainer clip that holds the cam gear on, and that keeps the cam from sliding back. And then there's a seal that goes in this groove here. The 12 valves have a frost plug that stops the oil from coming out. It's just engine oil pressure lubing the cam. And the 24 valves have this little O-ring, this square O-ring that seals against the adapter plate. Now you can see the oil was running down right out the bottom here, and it was making a mess. The rear main seal was leaking as well, and I originally thought it was the rear main seal because this one generally doesn't give a problem. Now if you look at the rear main seal, the way this is installed, it's hard to tell, but it's actually in crooked. This side is down lower, and it's if you look at the new seal, it's got all these ribs on it, and it's off a full rib. Now also you can see how much material is left on the inside of the housing here. The seal can go much farther down. So whether the seal walked out or not, I don't know. But this is the tool that you get when you install a rear main. And basically you just put it on here until this lip here bottoms out against here. Now, the only reason I don't do this sometimes is because if there's a small groove on the crankshaft itself, if it's got a lot of miles on it, you'll have a groove from the seal on the rear of the crankshaft. So you want to put the seal in a different spot so it doesn't ride on that groove. This crank doesn't have that groove in there. It's only got 300,000 kilometers on it. So we'll put the new seal in with the press, making sure it goes in nice and even. Basically, you just want to put pressure on it and then tap it lightly until it gets started, and then push it down with the press. So I've done that video before. It's actually on a case video, but the case uses the Cummins anyway. Same idea, it's just a bigger seal. But we'll do it for this one here. Now the only thing that I can think of as to why the seal started leaking, and it's not because these bolts were loose that hold everything together. It's got dowels in it to keep the plate from moving and put the plate in the right spot. The only thing I can see is it had the exhaust mounted to the side, this side somewhere, and I'm wondering if the vibrations of it, for some reason, that minute vibration of the exhaust made that seal leak. There's no silicone on it. There was no sealant of any kind of the old one, and it wasn't stiff or hard or cracked. But I'm gonna put a little bit of silicone on it, clean it up really well, and then make sure there's absolutely nothing in the groove here, make sure that the back of the block is nice and clean, and then try it again. Now I have heard of, never seen it, but that retainer clip pops off of the cam gear, and the camshaft actually is moving back and forth, more with the 12 valves where it knocks that frost plug out. And it actually does wreck the cam too. If your cam is walking beside the lifters, you'll have to replace the cam, then you're into a big job. So this is still the machining. You can see the grooves of the machining, the milling plate. So that's not the case. And I also grabbed the camshaft and tried to move it back and forth at all, and I couldn't get it to move at all. So I'm not going to pull the timing cover apart. I am going to replace the seal, the rear main, and then bolt everything back up again. I am going to eliminate this exhaust hanger off of the bell housing, and I'm just going to hang it off of the frame. So yeah, here we go. Now your seal will come with this little plastic ring, and that slides over top of the crankshaft. That's really helpful. Don't take that out, because you have to you can't push the plate straight onto the crank because the bottom needs to go against the oil pan gasket. So basically you want to put it in like this and kind of tip it against the back, and this guide really helps with that. And then as you put it on, it'll push it out. So it's going in nice and straight, but otherwise just kind of tap the high side to make it go down. This is actually going really nice. Now these gaskets, when you get the gasket for the cover, are always longer than the actual plate, and your oil pan sits right there. So you need to trim those off. So I usually put all the little bolts back in again to kind of hold it in place, and then take a hammer and just tap the edge. And you can see that, how that cut that, and then it's perfect. Bob's your uncle. Now a little bit of silicone, definitely in the bottom groove, and the other side of the gasket has silicone built in, so you don't need anything on this side, but generally put a little bit of silicone on this side. Here we go. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you love the channel, consider picking up a tape boss to make those projects go faster so you got more time to watch YouTube. And remember, if you're not filthy, you're not rich.